Welcome everyone to DC Talk, the show where I'll discuss various subjects surrounding JRPGs and Nintendo news. Today, I wanted to talk about a subject that has been on my mind for a while now, and it's how Atlus should take example, in my opinion, from Square Enix on the way that they decided to support the Nintendo Switch. Before I get right into it, I'm fully aware that both companies don't have the same volume nor revenue. I'm simply comparing them since they're two Japanese developers with awesome IPs and, of course, a very different way of supporting the Nintendo Switch. Just before I get right into it and compare both companies, here is a brief overview of Square's relationship with Nintendo and the way that they decided to support the Switch since day one. So, Square Enix is doing very well financially speaking. Their games are selling well. They put out great titles pretty often. We've had in the recent years titles like Kingdom Hearts 3, like Final Fantasy VII Remake as well, that came out just last week. Their support on the Nintendo Switch has been great, to say the least, since the beginning, since the release of the game. I remember when the Switch came out, they put out I Am Setsuna RPG that was pretty good, honestly. I liked it. It's not the best RPG of all time, of course, but it was pretty good. They've also supported Final Fantasy on the Switch with a lot of titles. So they ported, if I'm not forgetting any of those. They bring to the table Final Fantasy VII, the original 8 as well, 9, X and X2, 12, the Zodiac Age, and also Adventure, Final Fantasy Adventure on the collection of mana. That's also another game that we had. World of Final Fantasy, and then that I would have liked to forgot about it, but they bring as well Final Fantasy 15 Pocket Edition on the Switch. The best game that they brought, well, two of the better games that they brought out on the Switch, in my opinion, again, is Dragon Quest XI-S, which is the definitive version of Dragon Quest. Everyone agrees on that. There's a lot of additional content. The music has been orchestrated, which is also very good. They also, before Dragon Quest, they put out Octopath Traveler on the Switch, which is one of the better titles on the Nintendo Switch as well, in my opinion. Brand new IP made by the developers of Bravely Default, which Bravely Default is also coming up in 2020 normally. And then they plan also on releasing Trials of Mana later this month, which is also an anticipated title that I'm certain will be very great. Square Enix realized that there's a market for their games in Japan and on the Nintendo Switch as well, since they're all selling very well, and they are fully aware that the Nintendo Switch is currently dominating around the world. So we see every single month that the Switch is topping the charts over PS4, over Xbox One, so they know that it's worth it to port some games on the Switch. Now we have to compare Atlus to Square Enix on the way that the company is going to begin with. This company, Atlus, is part of Sega, and as we've seen from Sega's financial results this year, they're kind of struggling right now. And also Atlus, they released recently Persona 5 Royale exclusively on the PlayStation 4, and the game sold less than expected in Japan, even though it's the third most critically acclaimed game on Metacritic since it's released in North America. And it's also a turn-based RPG that normally has a lot of success in Japan. With all of that out of the way, let's look at the way that Atlus decided to support the Nintendo Switch since its release, just as we did with Square. Atlus, they ported with Nintendo Tokyo Mirage Sessions, a game from the Wii U that was published by Nintendo, but Atlus also worked on the game. That was released last January, and they will also port Catherine Full Body, a game that came out on the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 initially, but that was ported as a remaster on the PlayStation 4 only in September 2019. I personally always thought that it was a bit weird for Atlus not to port Catherine Full Body onto the Nintendo Switch. It's a game from the PS3 and Xbox 360 era, last gen. It can definitely run onto the Nintendo Switch, even if it's a remaster, and I'm confident that it would have sold very well for the type of game that it is, and I'm confident that it has an audience onto the Nintendo Switch, but it decided not to port it, just to realize a few months after that it was worth it to port the game. Now, if we want to talk about new titles that Atlus wants to bring to the Nintendo Switch, they recently released Persona 5 Scramble in Japan on the Nintendo Switch, which is a sequel. I think it looks really good. I hope it will come to North America because, believe it or not, it's not confirmed yet. I actually realized that the game was not confirmed to come to North America when I read an article on Nintendo Life, and it was an article about how Atlus asked their fans if they would like to see Persona 5 get localized for PlayStation 4 Nintendo Switch for North America. I thought that it was initially supposed to be confirmed to come to the Nintendo Switch, but I realized when I saw that it was not confirmed already, which is unfortunate because obviously we won the game. It's clear that we won the game. I mean, when the free demo came out on the Japanese eShop, I saw a lot of YouTubers like Game Explain, for example, that decided to download the demo and then do a review and first initial thoughts videos on the free demo. So I think that's clear enough that we won the game, right? At least it's not clear enough for Atlus, it seems like. Enough of Persona 5 Scramble. Now we need to talk about the biggest. The biggest of all the announcement that Atlus decided to give to the Nintendo Switch. In January 2017, the first Nintendo Switch event that we had where the Switch was revealed and we saw the concept, we saw what it was, what the console was, and what games would be coming onto the Switch. We saw a teaser slash trailer for Shin Megami Tensei 5. That's a big announcement. Shin Megami Tensei 4 did very well on the Nintendo 3DS, and it's a long-running franchise. You don't know already, Persona is actually a spin-off that began as a spin-off title for the Shin Megami Tensei franchise. So obviously, when Atlus decided to show SMT5 at the Switch event, it was big. It was very big. But the problem is that that was in January 2017, and we practically had no news since, except Atlus telling us certain times during the years that the game's not dead. It's still in development, and we'll probably see it eventually. Well, at least we hope. I guess nothing's certain at this point, right? Now, I need to talk about my last point, which is what I think Atlus should take example from Square Enix on the way that they support the Nintendo Switch, and that is by, first of all, porting some games to the Switch. Atlus is the company behind a lot of very good IPs such as Persona, such as Shin Megami Tensei, such as Etrian Odyssey, such as Trauma Center that was actually very strong on the Wii and the Nintendo DS. With all of those franchises behind them, they could definitely make a lot of bread with ports, simple ports. Like you upres the game, you get good audio for the games, and you port it onto new consoles. Not Switch exclusive, not PlayStation exclusive, not at all. Just give it to all of the consoles and let it sell like hotcakes. Just as Square Enix is doing, get some money from those ports and then invest your money in the development of your new IPs, of your new games. I think if they were to do that, if they were to port old games such as Persona 1 and 2, Persona 3, I know that fans have been asking for the definitive edition of Persona 3, the one with the multi-character combat in Persona 3 Portable, and the one with the additional story component from Persona 3 FES on the PS2. Do this definitive edition, port that to PS4, port that to Nintendo Switch, let it sell. Let it sell, then invest that money in the development of Shin Megami Tensei 5. If Atlus were to do that, I'm certain that the development for Shin Megami Tensei 5 would be better because they could give more funds to the game. Just get a team on the ports and get your other team on the new games. I think that is a good solution since it works for Square Enix. Simple as that. Next up is exclusivity. Atlus has to drop exclusivity. Sega has to drop exclusivity. There is a market for those type of long RPGs where you have to grind. For Persona, where there's confidence, there's a lot of dialogues that you have to go through as well. You want to play those type of games sitting on your couch, laying down on the bed. Those games are made for a mobile market. Let's look at Persona 4 Golden so you can understand my opinion, my point there. It is simple. Persona before 5 was not as big of an IP as it is right now, okay? Persona 5 made the franchise get very popular now, at least more popular than it used to be. Persona 4 did well. It did very well on the PlayStation 2, but Persona 5 stepped up the game even more, okay? Persona 4 Golden was released on the PS Vita only. PS Vita was a console and is still a console with a shitty install base. There was not a lot of players, there was not a lot of games that were put out on the console, and still Persona 4 Golden sold a lot on the Vita. I think it's top 10 best-selling games on the Vita. People want to play those games in mobile. they want to play the games in mobile, and the Switch is the perfect platform for mobile. Persona 5 Royale should be on the Switch. It should be. We saw with the girl from Atlus West that Persona 5, that there's no exclusive contract between Sony and Atlus for the game. At least that's what I understood from the article, and that's what people were saying afterwards. So now's the time. Bring Persona 5 Royale to the Switch, or at least bring the vanilla version to the Switch. And more importantly, now the engine will be on Switch with Catherine. Catherine is running on the same engine as Persona 5. It's the perfect time to bring the game to the platform. Honestly, in my opinion, I think Atlus will end up realizing, and they will end up putting Persona 5 on the Switch. They should do it. People have been about a port of this game for so long. I'm seeing comments on every single Atlus video. Put your games on Switch. Will there be a Switch port and all of that? People are port begging. It's enough. We don't need those stupid surveys that Atlus are putting out every single month or every single week to ask fans if we want the game. I mean, come on. It's clear. It's very clear. You can see it in your own comment sections that people want the game. I think I spoke for long enough about my opinion of why Atlus should break free Persona and put it on other platforms. I know that I spoke a lot about the Nintendo Switch, but it's because it's a hybrid system and it's a system where Japanese RPGs are selling very well. So this is why I prioritize that console. But honestly, bring it to PC, bring it to Xbox. The more people can play those awesome games, the better. I mean, just port your games. I think it's a good idea for the Switch especially. I think it's only a matter of time. I think we'll end up finally having the game on the console. I think it will come out eventually, but we have to be patient because Atlus. Thank you very much for listening to my video, guys. I needed to speak about my opinion and the problems that there is with Atlus as a company, but they make awesome games. Check them out, and thank you very much for taking the time to listen to my video. If you have an opinion on the matter with Atlus and with Persona, with the Break Free campaign that we're seeing right now, don't hesitate to tell me about it on the comment section. I would be really happy to read those comments. Until next time.